I never thought I'd be crouched behind a tree, holding a Bluetooth speaker blasting angry bees, while a grown woman in rhinestone leggings screamed like her soul was on fire. But that's exactly where I was. Me. A solo female camper who just wanted one peaceful weekend in the woods. Why? Because she tried to steal my campsite. Not ask. Not share. She demanded it, like the forest owed her something. She showed up with frosted tips, designer sunglasses, and a purse full of complaints. When I didn't roll over, she got nasty. She lied to the ranger. She claimed her son was allergic to my campfire. She even pretended she'd been coming here for years. That's when I realized, this wasn't just a Karen. This was Karen. Final form. And if she thought she could bully me out of the woods, she had no idea what I was about to unleash. I'm not what you'd call a thrill seeker. No skydiving. No wild parties. No climbing cliffs without a harness. But give me a quiet weekend in the woods with a good book, a pot of coffee on the fire, and the sound of wind rustling through the pines? That's my idea of heaven. I'm a freelance graphic designer, so I stare at screens a lot. Deadlines, last-minute revisions, client Zoom calls at 8 p.m. It gets overwhelming. That's why, every few months, I go off-grid. No emails. No notifications. No people. Just me, my hammock, and whatever snacks I've crammed into a bear-proof box. I'd been dreaming of this trip for weeks. I booked the site the second reservations opened online. One of those hike-in-only campsites, tucked away past a stream, with just enough space for a small tent and a campfire ring. Most people didn't bother with it. It was too much work for a casual weekend. But I loved that. It meant no generators humming next door. No kids screaming. No car doors slamming at midnight. Just solitude. By the time Friday rolled around, my backpack was packed, boots were broken in, and I was itching to get into the woods. I left early, made good time, and reached the trailhead just after noon. The hike-in was peaceful. I passed a few other campers headed the opposite way, everyone smiling, nodding, that unspoken, "we're out, we're cool" hiker code. When I finally reached my spot, I actually laughed out loud. The view was even better than I remembered. A small clearing shaded by tall evergreens. A big rock that overlooked the stream. Flat, dry ground for my tent. I set up camp with a quiet kind of joy, humming to myself, boiling water for tea while watching the breeze dance through the trees. It was everything I needed. That night, I made a simple dinner, lit a small fire, and watched the stars come out. I don't think I touched my phone once, except to take a few pictures. No service, anyway. The next morning, I woke up early, stretched out on my sleeping pad, and just breathed. No alarms. No Slack messages. No city noise. Just birdsong and silence. I spent the day drawing in my sketchbook, collecting pine cones like I was 5 years old again, and reading an old fantasy novel I'd been meaning to finish for years. By that afternoon, I was finally relaxing. I mean the real kind of relaxing, the kind that settles deep into your shoulders and tells you everything is going to be okay. But then, just as I was prepping my little camping stove for dinner, I heard voices. At first, I thought it was someone passing through. It happens sometimes, even on remote trails. But then I heard it again. Closer. A high-pitched voice. Laughing. Talking way too loud for a forest. And then, the sound of twigs snapping. Shoes crunching the leaves. And a voice calling out. Hello? Is someone already here? I stood up, confused. Who the heck was hiking this far in, at this time of day? Sounding like they just walked out of a mall. I turned the corner. And there she was. Bright blonde bob. Choppy and frosted at the ends. Giant sunglasses perched on top of her head. Matching pink leggings and crop top, both bedazzled in rhinestones. A white tote bag slung over one shoulder that literally said, "Good vibes only," in glittery gold letters. Spoiler. There were no good vibes coming from her. Behind her was a man I assumed was her husband, red-faced, carrying way too much gear, and a sulking teenage boy holding a Bluetooth speaker that was blasting some kind of EDM remix of Sweet Caroline. She took one look at my tent. and narrowed her eyes. I felt my stomach twist. Something about her expression told me this wasn't just a curious passerby. Nope. This was about to get complicated. She didn't say hi. Didn't smile. Didn't even introduce herself. She just pointed at my tent like she was spotting a stain on her white couch. This is Site 14, right? I blinked. Yeah, I think so. I booked it online months ago. She crossed her arms, her lips curling into a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. Well, we always stay here. Every summer. It's kind of our spot. Her voice had that tone. The Karen tone. Sweet on the surface, but soaked in entitlement. I gave a polite laugh, hoping to keep things civil. That's cool. It's a great spot. I guess we both like it. She didn't laugh back. She just stood there, like she was waiting for me to move. Behind her, her husband sighed and dropped one of the overstuffed duffels. The teenage son sat down on a log and pulled out his phone. Did you double-check the reservation? The husband mumbled, but Karen snapped her fingers at him without looking. No, because I know this is our site, she said, still staring at me. We come here every year. The rangers usually hold it for us. Right, but this is a public campground, I said carefully. First come, first serve on the reservation site. I booked it online through the state park website. She huffed. Must be a mistake, she muttered. Then louder, well, I guess we'll just set up over there temporarily while we sort this out. She gestured to a muddy, uneven patch of ground near the slope. Like I was going to feel bad and offer her my spot. I didn't. I nodded, smiled tight, and went back to stirring my pot of instant noodles. That should have been the end of it. But no. Karen wasn't done. She spent the next 30 minutes loudly dragging gear into the clearing. She'd accidentally knock things over. Coughed dramatically every time smoke from my fire drifted her way. At one point, she even muttered loudly, "Some people really don't understand trail etiquette." Her husband didn't say a word. He just looked like he wanted to disappear. That night, I tried to ignore them. I zipped up my tent early and put in earplugs, trying to drown out the thumping bass of the Bluetooth speaker and Karen's voice talking on speakerphone about some HOA drama back home. But around midnight, I heard something. Rustling. Movement outside my tent. I froze. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of a zipper opening, and it wasn't my tent. I peeked out the mesh window and saw Karen, rummaging through the bear box I had neatly locked and tucked away. She was looking at my food. "What are you doing?" I said, stepping out, voice half asleep and half panicked. She didn't even flinch. Just looked at me like I was the one being inappropriate. "Oh, I thought this was our container. I mean, we usually leave ours right here, so I just assumed." She let the sentence hang, smiling innocently. But her eyes? Cold. Calculated. That's when I knew. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mix-up. This woman had zero intention of backing off. She was here to take my space. Piece by piece. And I had a choice. Pack up, hike out, and let her win. Or dig in my boots and hold my ground. I didn't know it yet. But things were about to get way worse. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something banging. Hard. Like metal on wood. I unzipped my tent and found Karen standing in front of the fire pit, holding a stick, and repeatedly slamming it into the metal ring. "Oh, did I wake you?" she said sweetly, not even pretending to be sorry. "No," I lied, rubbing my eyes. "Just trying to make sure these coals are fully out," she said, smiling wide. "Don't want to violate fire safety, you know? I hadn't had a fire since the night before, and I definitely put it out." But Karen clearly wasn't trying to be helpful. She was trying to send a message. And it didn't stop there. She started moving her stuff closer. Her folding chair magically appeared a few feet from my picnic table. Her tote bag ended up on the boulder where I'd been sketching. Her kid's speaker was now sitting right on the edge of my tent footprint. It was like a slow invasion. Inch by inch. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I kept my cool. At least until lunchtime, when a park ranger showed up. "Hi there," he said politely, approaching my sight. "Mind if I ask you a couple questions?" "Sure," I said, heart sinking. Karen appeared behind him like she'd been waiting for this moment. Arms crossed, lips pursed, doing that thing where she looked both smug and victimized. The ranger cleared his throat. "There's been a complaint. Apparently there's excessive smoke, and, someone said you had glass bottles near the stream." "What?" I stared at him. "No. I've only used my stove today. And I haven't even gone near the water." "What glass?" Karen piped up. "I saw it. A green bottle, right on the edge. My son almost slipped on it." The teenager didn't even look up from his phone. I turned to the ranger. "You're welcome to check my trash bag. It's all sealed and packed. I'd never leave glass near the water." He hesitated. "Okay. No problem," he said. "Just needed to check. We've had some issues this season with campers not following leave no trace." Karen folded her arms tighter. "Oh, and one more thing," the ranger added. "This site. Did you say you reserved it online?" "Yep," I said, pulling out my printed permit. "Booked 3 months ago." He looked it over, nodded, then turned to Karen. She blinked, then gave him a syrupy smile. "Oh, I'm sure it's a glitch. We've always stayed here. Usually the rangers just let us walk right in." The ranger looked uncomfortable. "Well, technically, everything has to be reserved now," he said. "But, I'll leave you two to work it out." And just like that he walked away. Karen didn't even try to hide her grin. I was fuming. She'd lied. To the ranger. And it worked. He just let her stay. That night, she started a fire on her side of the clearing. Despite all her earlier fire safety lectures, she left it burning when they went into their tent. Sparks were literally floating up into the trees. I put it out myself when they were asleep. I thought about hiking out. Just packing up, calling it a loss, and writing a bad review online. But that's when I noticed something. Karen had her phone out every time I so much as boiled water. She'd record me from the side, then shake her head, muttering things like, "Some people really don't care about forest safety." She wasn't just trying to annoy me. She was building a case. She wanted me gone. I started to feel paranoid. Like I couldn't even tie my shoes without her judging me for unsafe knot techniques. By the next afternoon, I'd had enough. I needed a break. So I hiked down the trail a little, sat by the stream, and tried to collect my thoughts. That's when I heard voices. Again. But this time they weren't coming toward me. They were back at the campsite. And Karen was talking. Loudly. To another camper who must have passed by their tent. "Oh, it's always ours. We don't book. We just show up. People usually move when I explain." Laughter. Then. "The rangers know me. They'll take care of it if someone makes a fuss." My heart started pounding. She admitted it. She does this every year. Shows up. Pretends it's her site. Gaslights whoever's there until they leave. And this year? She just happened to run into someone who wasn't going to roll over. I hiked back, slow and calm, brain spinning. Because now it wasn't about a tent. Now it was about principle. And I had just the plan in mind. One that buzzed with petty satisfaction. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there staring up at the nylon ceiling of my tent, listening to Karen's smug laughter drift over the crackle of their fire. I wasn't just annoyed anymore. I was furious. Because now I knew the truth. She didn't accidentally think it was her spot. She never booked anything. She'd been bluffing the entire time. And worse, she'd gotten away with it before. Dozens of times probably. That other camper she bragged to. He just laughed and moved on. But me? I'd hiked 3 miles to be alone. I had paid for this. And I wasn't going to let her walk all over me and pretend like she was some queen of the forest. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she was using every dirty little trick in the Karen handbook. She played innocent. She played victim. And when that didn't work, she played authority. But now I had something she didn't. I had a plan. You see, before I got into design full-time, I worked for an escape room company. I helped design puzzles and props, including realistic sound effects for things like swarming insects, monster growls, you name it. I still had the files on my phone. And better yet, I had a waterproof Bluetooth speaker in my pack. One I used for podcasts on hikes. And tucked deep in my dry bag? A roll of fake plastic wasp decoys I used once for a Halloween shoot. They were flat black, slightly glossy, and big enough to catch the eye. I'd strung them together with invisible thread as part of a haunted forest vibe. That night, under the cover of darkness, I got to work. I waited until her snoring started. Yes, she snored like a lawnmower with attitude, and tiptoed to the tree nearest their tent. It was close, but not too close. I tied the fake wasps in the lower branches, so they'd sway just a little with the morning breeze. Then I clipped the speaker behind the trunk, nestled in the crook of the bark. Completely hidden. I tested the connection from my tent. Worked perfectly. Then I waited. The next morning, I woke up early and packed my gear neatly, just in case she tried to say I was being sloppy. Folded tent. Rolled sleeping pad. Coffee brewed quietly over the stove. I pretended to be completely unbothered. Karen, of course, woke up late, loud, and immediately started complaining about the temperature, the mosquitoes, and how the ranger still hadn't done anything about that girl's bad attitude. I smiled to myself and waited for the perfect moment. And then, right around 9 a.m., when she walked over to MY's side of the campsite with her phone out, again, to record how I was supposedly violating fire safety. I tapped play. The speaker kicked in with a high-pitched whine. Then a low hum. Then, bzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz. A full-blown, three-dimensional soundscape of angry, swarming bees. It was loud, directional, and worst of all, realistic. Karen stopped mid-step. "What is that?" she shouted. Her head whipped around. She scanned the trees, then looked up, and saw the swarm of plastic wasps. They were bobbing slightly in the wind, glinting in the sunlight. To the untrained and overly caffeinated eye, they looked very real. "Oh my God, bees!" she screamed, tossing her phone and bolting backwards. She slapped at her arms, spun in circles, and ran back toward her tent, shrieking like a fire alarm had gone off inside her skull. I kept the sound going. Even added the buzzing swarm attack crescendo I'd used for a jump scare in one of our haunted rooms. Her husband stumbled out of the tent in his socks, totally confused. "Are you okay?" "There are bees, Mark. A whole nest. I told you I heard buzzing last night." He looked at the tree, blinking. "I don't see. I'm allergic. Oh my God, I could die out here." She ran behind their car, crouching like it was a battlefield. I hit pause. Instant silence. She peeked out, panicked. Mark was just staring, eyebrows furrowed. And me? I calmly sipped my coffee. And waited. Because this was only the beginning. The real show was still coming. For a moment, the forest was dead silent. Karen crouched behind their Subaru, clutching her tote bag like it was a life raft. Her eyes darted from the tree to her husband to me. She looked like she was trying to decide if she should scream again, faint, or start praying. "Did you call anyone?" she asked Mark, breathless. "For what?" he said, still half asleep, rubbing his eyes. "I don't even see a nest." "I saw them," she insisted. "They were coming right at me." I stood, calm as ever, and stretched like I had just finished a yoga session. "You okay over there?" I called, sweet as honey. She glared. "There are bees," I said, tilting my head. "I thought you liked nature." Mark looked from me to the tree again, then took a few cautious steps forward. That's when he saw the speaker. Karen. That buzzing? It's a speaker." Karen stood up fast. "What?" He pointed. "It's hidden in the tree. And those bees? They're plastic." She froze. I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to flip this into a sympathy story. But then the ranger appeared. Not just any ranger. The same one from 2 days earlier. The one she tricked with her glass bottle nonsense. He must have been doing his rounds and heard the yelling. He had another camper with him too. A woman in a sun hat I'd seen the day before filling her water bottle near the stream. "What's going on?" the ranger asked, walking up. Karen puffed up immediately. "There's a bee infestation. And this woman," she jabbed a French-tipped finger toward me, "has been harassing me with sound traps or pranks or whatever that is." I raised my eyebrows. She means the Bluetooth speaker in my tree? She put fake insects all over it. She's trying to scare me. She's unstable. The woman in the sun hat gave her a look. "Didn't you say yesterday that you never even reserved this spot?" Karen snapped toward her, stunned. "What? You told me the rangers always let you take it," she said calmly. "Said you didn't need to book anything because they know who you are." Now all eyes turned on Karen. Even Mark looked away. The ranger folded his arms. "Karen, can I see your reservation confirmation?" She didn't move. "Karen." She fumbled for her phone. "It must be in my email. Just give me a sec. It's probably under my husband's name, Mark." "What email did we use?" Mark didn't answer. He was staring down at the dirt. The ranger sighed. "We're going to need to ask you to move your things. Now." Karen gasped like someone had slapped her. "What? You're siding with her? After everything she's done?" "She hasn't broken a single rule," the ranger said. "But you filed a false complaint. You also set up camp without a reservation and left a fire unattended." "That is such a lie." "I put it out," I cut in. "After you went to bed." Karen spun on me. "You psycho. You've been planning this. You set me up." I shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe I was just tired of being bullied." Sun Hat Lady chuckled under her breath. Mark finally spoke. "Karen, just drop it." She turned on him now. "Excuse me." He met her eyes. "Let's go. Please. I'm not doing this again." That, again, hit hard. I got the sense this wasn't their first camping confrontation. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But this time? No one was listening. The ranger waited, arms crossed, until they started packing. The teenager muttered something about how he told them this spot was cursed. I sat down at my picnic table and went back to my sketchbook. The woman in the sun hat walked over and gave me a small smile. "That was impressive." I grinned. "Thanks. The bees were a last-minute idea." "Well," she said, glancing over at Karen, now wrestling with a collapsing tent pole, "you made my morning." When the Karen clan finally hiked out, tote bag swinging, speaker long gone quiet, it felt like the whole forest sighed in relief. The ranger came back a little later. "I want to apologize," he said. "You were right. She's been warned before. She just always skirts around it." "No worries," I said. "I think I made my point." He smiled. "I'd say so. You'll be happy to know she's officially blacklisted from this region. She won't be pulling that stunt again." And just like that, peace returned. I spent the rest of the day sketching bees. Real ones. Cartoon ones. Vengeful ones with little sunglasses and smug grins. Other campers stopped by later with snacks and esmores. Someone even brought a mini bottle of wine. "You earned it," one of them said. That was Karen slaying at its finest. And yeah, I have to admit, it kind of was. That last night at the campsite felt completely different. The air was still, quiet. The birds were louder. The forest didn't feel tense anymore. It felt mine again. It's strange how something as simple as a piece of land, a little clearing in the woods, can become symbolic. For me, it wasn't just a campsite. It was a reminder that I had the right to take up space. That I didn't have to shrink to make someone else comfortable. I didn't have to give in just because someone raised their voice or used their fake smile like a weapon. Karen wasn't the first person in my life who tried to bulldoze their way through my boundaries. But she might have been the last. Because something shifted in me that weekend. I realized I didn't have to be the nice one all the time. I could stand up for myself. I could be smart, calm, and just a little bit devious if that's what it took. And no, I didn't feel guilty. Not for the bees. Not for the speaker. Not for watching her stomp off into the woods with leaves in her hair and a tote bag full of shattered pride. She earned every step of that walk. When I finally packed up my gear and hiked back out, I felt lighter. Not because the pack was any less full, but because I was walking with my head higher. I'd defended my peace. I'd held my ground. And somewhere, I imagined the next person she tried to pull her tricks on would be just a little more prepared. A little braver. Maybe even with a Bluetooth speaker in hand. Back at the parking lot, as I tossed my bag in the trunk, another camper I'd met that evening gave me a wave. "You coming back next year?" he called out. I smiled. Already booked it. And yeah, I might just bring a few more bees with me. Just in case.